Last week, I showed you a basic process for editing landscape photos in Lightroom. Today I'm going to be showing a slightly more advanced process for editing starscapes, which are landscape photos taken at night that show the Milky Way and other celestial objects in them. So I'm going to be showing the advanced process for editing those photos to really make the stars pop. Welcome to Grant Takes Pictures. I'm Grant, and I take pictures. So the photo we have today is one I took last year at the Bigsby Canyon Bridge, just south of Big Sur in California. Now this was one of the darkest nights I had ever seen. There was no light pollution at all. So the Milky Way was incredibly bright at night. So here we have this photo I took of the Bigsby Canyon Bridge. And as you can see, the bridge you can barely see in the bottom part of the image. There is a little bit of illumination from a car's headlights coming southward on the bridge, and there's illumination of the hillside and the road way far south of a car coming north. But other than that, the bridge almost looks pitch black. It's not pitch black, though. There's a little bit of detail there that we're going to try to lift out of the picture. And then you have the Milky Way up above in the sky. So this was a 20-second exposure at f2.8. It was taken at 24 millimeters, and 20 seconds is just about as long as you can get away with a image of the Milky Way before the stars start streaking when you're at 24 millimeters. This was done at 6400 ISO. Otherwise, the image would be way too dark to be able to pull any details out of it. This was taken on my Canon 5D Mark III, which is a pretty good camera for low light situations. So what we're going to do is first we're going to focus on making the Milky Way look the way we want it. We're going to try to bring out the colors a little bit while pushing down the blackness of the sky and just increase that contrast between the stars of the Milky Way and the black background where there is nothing. So we are going to start here by bringing up the exposure just about 2/3 of a stop, and then bring up the contrast. And we can bring up the contrast quite a bit. That pushes those blacks down. We'll end up doing that more when we are playing with our tone curve and right here with the highlight, shadows, whites, and black sliders. So as you can see, if the highlights really affect the core of the Milky Way quite a bit. We want to bring these up just slightly. If we bring them up too much, the glow of the sky near the horizon starts to come up as well. If we bring down the shadows, it brings down these gaseous parts of the middle of the Milky Way. The whites really affect the stars, and then bring down the blacks just a little bit. If we bring them down too much, it starts to look more fake than we want. Just like I talked about in my previous video, the Haze slider is my absolute favorite. So we are going to bring this up just a little bit. Haze. If we bring it up too much, we start losing some of the detail of the glow around the Milky Way core. But bring this up just to about 40. Maybe even 50. Let's try 50. I like that pretty well. Bring the vibrancy slider up as well as the saturation. Something I do that's slightly different in my astro photos than I do for landscape photos is I bring up the saturation as well. By bringing up the saturation, it helps bring out the colors of the Milky Way just a little bit. Now, unfortunately, what you're starting to see is a significant amount of green in the sky near the horizon. This is called air glow, and we want to pull that out as best as possible. And we're going to do that with the HSL sliders. So that's a lot of greens and yellows, and I'm going to bring the luminosity of those all the way down. Yellow, we don't want to quite bring all the way down. We start losing a lot of color of the Milky Way down here near the horizon. This isn't the only way to suck the air glow out of an image, but it's how I'm going to do it on this one. So once we have the greens turned down as best as possible, I'm going to come back up here to my tone curve and just give it a slight S curve. We're going to make it a little more curvy than I would in a normal landscape photo, but not so curvy that it starts to look fake. So I especially bring up the lights quite a bit more than I would normally. But if I bring the darks and the shadows down too much, it really makes the image look funny. But here we have a pretty good image of the Milky Way core. I'm actually going to make a couple more small adjustments here to the tint and the color. This will not only help with the green, but it pushes the rest of the Milky Way a little bit more purple, which personally I like. And then bring the temp down a little bit. We pixel peep a little bit here. Maybe we're a little bit too purple. But if you compare it to our original image, you can see just how much more well-defined the Milky Way is. Honestly, I think I pushed this image a little too far, but let's keep going and see what we get. One of the things that I said I wanted to do was to bring out the bridge down below and make it so it's a little bit more visible. The way we can do that is through dodging and burning. So to bring out the bridge, we're going to come up here to this brush tool. We're just going to paint the whole bottom half of the image. Now I have it set so the exposure is coming up by 4 full stops. I'm going to end up turning that down, but just to make sure I get my paintbrush where I need it, that's where I'm going to start. Just come right here across the horizon. So let's bring this exposure back down to a plus 2.5. Bring the shadows up quite a bit. Bring the contrast down. If I adjust those highlights a little bit, adjust those whites downwards a little bit. And now I think that mask looks pretty good. So one final thing we need to do is to adjust the amount of noise in this image. As you can tell when we zoom in, there's a ton of noise in especially the bottom part of this image where we brought up the brightness, but we also have quite a bit of noise in the sky as well. So across the entire thing, we're going to come down here to detailing and increase the noise reduction. Now it takes a little while sometimes to process this, so let's just sit here and wait for it for a minute. Now, I might have brought it up a little bit too much. We'll see. Okay, we brought it up a lot too much. So far, that's looking like it's just, colors smeared across the page. Yep. Okay, let's bring that down. Half of what it was before. So that's quite a bit better. We still have detail. There's still some noise. There's still plenty of detail here in the sky. All right, we are going to stop there and call this one done. I will oftentimes spend more time than this just going through and fine-tuning just everything a little bit. This image got pushed a little bit too far. I would bring everything back just slightly. But it just takes time sitting here playing with it, fiddling with it, adjusting it here and there to make it look just perfect. But for now, this is good enough for this video. Next week, I will be showing you how to take multiple images of a starscape and combine them in Starry Light Stacker to improve the noise quality and to just reduce the noise in your landscape starscape images. So next week, look forward to that. But For now, I hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time, have a great day.